Alright guys, this is Unit 7, Lesson 5B, because we split up Lesson 5 into 2 lessons. Today we're going to continue factoring trinomials, but this time our trinomials are going to have leading coefficients greater than 1. This is a very difficult skill that a lot of students struggle with, so we need to get it down because it will come up a lot in the next couple years. So I'll explain what this means in just a second. So to start us off, let's do some quick review. You guys should have no problem with these 4. So you're just simplifying the following expressions, multiply them out, and put your answer in standard form. So hit pause and please do that now. Okay, how'd you do? Now some of you guys might get pretty good at this and you could do the shortcut where you skip all the distributing because you know you're doing this x times the x plus 3 and this 2 times the x plus 3. So you're going to distribute there, and when you do that you'd get x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6, right? And then you combine these middle terms and you end up with this. And you guys should know that these two terms, when you add them, get the middle term, and when you multiply them, they get the third term. B, again, you could have used a shortcut and maybe went straight down to here, because some of you guys know that if I just add 1 and -5, I get -4, and if I multiply them, I get -5. But here's the work, in case you're still doing that. X times 5, or x times x, and so on, and 1 times x, and 1 times -5. Now what happened with C is you can't really just jump to this answer, because unfortunately now that we have this 3 here, it's going to mess things up. Because before, let's look at this example right here. When I distributed x times 3, it stayed 3x. And when I distribute 2 times x, it stays 2x. So these two numbers match these two numbers. Same thing here. Look, 1, -5, they match. However, now with this one, when I distribute this 3x times 1, I'm going to get a new 3x. I'm not going to have this 1 still. So having this number right here is going to mess up what we're used to. And over here, it's really going to change because now we have a 2x and a 4x up front. So when you distribute this one, you get the 3x squared, and then you get the plus 3x, and then we distribute here and get plus 2x, distribute there, plus 2. So again, notice that these numbers here are not matching these ones, because this 3x came from distributing that. There, when I add the middle ones, you can see that these two numbers do not add to get to this one. They still multiply to get this, but they don't add to get to that middle one, so that's going to mess us up. And over here, same thing. So I'm going to distribute, then I'm going to distribute, same thing here, finally there, and again look at these 3 and 5 do not match this 10 and 12. Then I'm going to combine like terms, and again this 3 and 5, this was just coincident, but you can see it should have got a positive 2 and now this gets a -2. But this still doesn't quite work the way you're used to. And what we are talking about is trinomials with leading coefficients greater than 1. Well, these are the ones you were doing yesterday. And notice coefficients are numbers in front of x's, or variables. So this thing has a coefficient of 1 because there's nothing there. And this has a coefficient of 1. And that's what you're used to. Well, these trinomials, if you look at the leading coefficient, it is greater than 1. So that's what we mean by trinomials with leading coefficients greater than 1. These are going to be harder to factor, so you'll have to get this down. All right, so let's learn how to factor these. I'm going to come back to this and use this quite a bit. So here we go. First is our guess and check method. Okay, this is the method that most people use. You don't have to memorize a lot of procedures. You just have to try and error. Sometimes you won't get it right the first time. You just got to keep trying. So you got to remember standard form for trinomials. The A is just your first coefficient, your B is your second, your C is your third. So first term, second term, third term. So what you're going to do is the factors of the A or first term, so when I say the A term, I mean the first one, will make up the first numbers in the parentheses. And what I mean by that, if we go back and look at here, if I look at the factors of the first term, well, how do I get 3? I do 3x times x. So that's the first number in the parentheses. Same thing here. How do I get this 8x squared? I do 2x times 4x. So the factor of the first term is going to be what your first numbers are. And then back here, the factors of the C or third term will make up your last terms in the parentheses. So again, what I mean by that is if you look at, wrong way. If you look at the third term, factors of 2 are 2 times 1, so that makes up the second. And over here, the factors of 15, 3, and 5. Okay, so that's what I mean by those. Now here's the hardest part. The outer product and the inner product will combine to get the B or middle term. And I'll show you this in a good graphic. But basically, whoops, go back here. If I look at these and I take this, and it's too hard to show you on that. Okay, so let's get this down and I'll show you in a better graphic. All right, this is not on your notes, so just look. But here is a trinomial with a leading coefficient greater than 1. First term, second term, third term. So the factors of the first term make up the first number. So 3x and x make up the 3x squared. The factors of the 12 make up the second one. 2 times negative 6 would get negative 12. Now when I'm talking about the product of the outer term and inner term, so the outer terms are these ones. So if I multiply 3 times negative 6, that gets negative 18. If I do 2 times x, that gets 2x. And if I combine those two, negative 18 plus 2x, that gets that middle term. So if you want to pause and look this over, hopefully it'll make a little sense. But we do got to start trying these. All right, what I do, and this should have been covered up, no big deal, is if you set this up first, it will make things easier for you. So basically these are your parentheses, and we're going to have a number here now in front of the x and possibly a number here, and we're going to have numbers here. And we don't know exactly which ones work, so we just have to guess and check and trial. So what I did is I took the factors of the first term, so here's 3. Obviously 1 and 3 are the only thing. It's a prime number. Typically we start with the big number 3 and then put the 1 there. It doesn't matter though. And then what we have to do is just try these different groups to see which work. Because remember, we're not going to always get to that. Some of you guys might say, well, if I do 2 minus 4, but that won't always work because of that 3 out in front. So let's just try the 1 and 8. So that's what I would do, is I'd put the 1 here, maybe, and the 8 here. And then you just see, well, 3 times 8 is 24, because I'm doing the outer product, the inner product. And obviously, if I combine those, that is not going to make the 2. So those didn't work. What you could do is swap them and see if that would work. What if I went something like this? And now let's see what happens. When I multiply these, I would get 3. And when I multiply these, I'd get 8. And I can't make 2 with 3 and 8. So those didn't work. So I got to ditch the 8 and 1. That didn't work for me. So now I have to try the 2 and 4. So if I put the 2 here and the 4 here, then I just see what happens. Okay, that would get 12. And I'd see what happens. That gets 2. Again, I can't make that. So let's swap them and see what happens. I'll take the 2 and put it here. Oh, we'll get rid of all that stuff. Just put the 4 back there. And the 2 over here. And again, we'll try this out. 3 times 2 is 6. And 4 times 1 is 4. If I could write it. And it looks like we can get negative 2. Now, how would we do that? We would have a negative 6 and a positive 4. So this 3 times what? Well, I'd have to make that negative 2. And this positive 4. And there's our factors. And that one works out. So again, a lot of guessing and checking in this trial. It's not hard. You just have to keep at it. And this would be our answer right here. All right, so let me show you another one, see if it makes sense. So again, this is work you'll have to do on your own. That was supposed to be erased, but that's okay. So you have to factor. Ooh, what am I doing? That's not what I want to do. All right, so you'll have to do this yourself. So the first term is 6. Here's the factors. Negative 20, here's the factors. And let's just try some work. So I'm going to put the 6 here, and 1 here. And maybe I just try, and some of these you could do in your head. Obviously, if I like put a 20 here, well, 6 times 20 is 120. That's not even close to 7, so I'm not going to try that one. Maybe the 2 and 10 might work. So maybe I put the 2 here and the 10 here, and I give that a try. 6 times 2 is 12. 10 times 1 is 10. That's not going to make 7. If I swapped it, you could, again, do some of the stuff in your head to save yourself a lot of time. I am really struggling with this board today. Sorry about that. And again, you could again do it in your head. What I was trying to say is if I do 6 times 10, that's 60. Again, not really close to 7, so let's get rid of that. Okay, now we have to try the last ones. I'll put the 4 in here and the 5 in here and maybe scribble this out or erase it, whatever you want to do. 6 times 5 is 30. 4 times 1 is 4. That's not close. Let's try to swap these then. I take the 4, take the 5. What do I get here? Let's see, 6 times 4 is 24. And this is 5, and that's still not getting 7. So the reason why this one's so hard, because there's 2 factors for this first term. So now the 6 and 1 didn't work. Now we have to try the 2 and the 3. So I put the 2 here and the 3 here. That makes 6. And now let's try to do some of these closer ones in our head, and let's try maybe some lower ones. What if I do something like 5 here and 4 here? What happens? Let's see, that's 8 and that's 15. And it looks like if I subtract those, then I would get 7. I need a positive 7, so this would be plus 15 minus 8. That makes 7. So that means, how do I get this negative 8? It came from multiplying by there. That would be positive, and there's our answer. So that was a lot of work because we had to try a bunch. All right, so now it's time for you to try some on your own. So hit pause and try these on your own. All right, so check out my work, and hopefully this went okay for you. There's the answer to this one, and there's the answer to this one, and you can see I checked my work and it came out. All right, now we have to try method number 2. Now this method I like better. However, you have to memorize some procedures, and once you learn what's going on, then it won't be so bad. You don't have to do a lot of guessing and checking. Once you get it down, it works every time, and it makes sense. I'm going to go through these kind of quick. You need to pause them and fill them in, and then I'll talk through them. So you're going to multiply the first and third terms together. Then you're going to factor that product, whatever you got when you multiplied, and that's what's going to add or subtract to get to the middle or B term. Now don't factor. Now you're going to rewrite the trinomial into a 4-term polynomial using the factors you found on step 2 to make the new middle term. Now this is incorrect, and you could just scribble this out because I shouldn't have put that. That is not true. You don't have to do that. All right, then what you're going to do is factor out the GCF between the first and second term and the GCF between the third and fourth term. And if you've done everything correctly, the binomials will be the same thing. You'll see it. Then you're going to use the distributive property to rewrite the expression. All right, so hit pause if you didn't get all that. I know it was confusing, but I'll go through the demonstration of it. Now, before we do it, I'm going to show you the reverse of it. So if you were given this problem, you would know what to do. You would distribute the 2x to here. So that's what I'm doing here. I would take this 2x and distribute it to this parentheses. So that's what it is here. I just haven't done the math. I'm just using the commutative property, associative property. Then I would take this negative 3 and distribute it here. So again, that's what you would do here. Then when you do the distributing, you would get this part, and you do the distributing, you'd get this part. Then you would combine the middle terms, and you'd end up with this. Okay, well this is exactly what we're going to do, but in reverse. Here's our trinomial with the leading coefficient greater than 1. And if you see, if I multiply the first and third terms, I get negative 12. And these are factors of negative 12, 4 times 3, that make the negative 12. That's for multiplying these. And then look, I didn't factor. We just rewrote this into a 4-term polynomial. And again, hopefully you notice that this term, or excuse me, this expression and this expression are the exact same thing. All I did is take this x and change it to 4x minus 3x because these make that. Okay, so these two combine to get there. Now what I did is I took the GCF of the first and second, so 2x goes into both of those, GCF'd it. Take the GCF of this, negative 3 goes in both of those, and notice my binomials are exactly the same. Now I could use the distributive property. Since both of these are being multiplied by the same thing, I could take these out here and multiply by the same thing. So that's what we're going to try. Now we don't have, what I have to do is, this is an important lesson. You're not going to like this, but this is going to have to be a 2-part video. So I'm going to post both parts. We only have about another 5 minutes. So I'm going to stop this here and you guys pick up in the next video.